Well, good morning, everybody. Jeff Slakey here on the Daybreak Show. I've got two great guests in studio talking about a wonderful donation that was pledged and given to Mason County Fire District 6. I have the Fire Chief Clint Volk here, as well as Sean Tucker from the Alderbrook Resort and Spa. Morning, guys.
Good morning.
Good to see you here. Let's see, Mason County Fire District 6, founded back in 1956, 2,000 or so population, 11 square miles. Kind of in the Union area, and that includes the Alderbrook then, right?
Yep, we essentially almost go to Tawano State Park, Alderbrook Golf Course community, and then just almost down to Webb Hill. So we are really a neighborhood-centric fire district that our two biggest population bases are the Alderbrook Resort and the Alderbrook Golf and Yacht Club community. So, yeah, we kind of...
How many calls a year you guys get for service?
On average, about 400. Down a little bit this year, which is always a good thing, but really is centric to the retirement community we have, and then that urban growth interface where we've all built our beautiful houses in trees, and then we make sure that we're ultra prepared for that wildland firefighting season that we're absolutely right smack dab in the middle of right now.
Full-time firefighters? Is it volunteers?
We are 85% volunteer with 3 full-time salaried staff that handle the daytime, and then our volunteers come home from work, and then we're a full volunteer fire department.
Okay. Sean is on here as well because the Alderbrook Resort and Spa has already donated a sizable amount to the fire district and pledged some more monies. So talk to me about the partnership and what the Alderbrook has brought to the table.
Yeah, well, it's pretty simple for us. We are in a small community, and I got out here about 6.5 years ago, and it was very clear right from the get-go that Clint Volk and the team were dedicated to making sure we were safe, we were taken care of. And it's quite often we'll have a call to 911 for a guest situation, not always an EMT-based situation. The Fire District 6 are the first ones there usually, and they're within there in just minutes. And so it's very comforting knowing that you have a dedicated group of people, some, like you said, 85% volunteers. It's very cool to have that type of support in a fairly remote area. Yeah. So it's comforting, and so talking to ownership's a very dedicated community based programs, and fire departments are a big part of our community, or Fire District 6, Clint Volk's team, and he are a big part of our community. So I was talking to them, and they wanted to show the gratitude towards the years of dedicated service that District 6 has done to the county and to our specific district. And so we're looking at ways of how we could contribute, and so some donations were the best way we felt we could show our gratitude, along with, treating them nice and being nice to them when we
sure. Well, I always, whenever I'm at an Alderbrook event, I always see the fire district there in some fashion, either jumping in during the polar plunge or just being around for Thunder on the Canal, things like that. So what did the monies go to, Clint? What were you able to purchase?
We were able to identify that our structural firefighting coats and pants, the National Fire Protection Agency Association, has a mandate that our state adopted in state law that every 10 years your fire gear expires. Even if it's in ideal condition, it's illegal to use. So through conversations with Sean and his leadership, that got identified, and then over a period of time they generated a donation to say, hey, can we help you with this? We got about 80% of our gear expiring in the next 18 months.
Wow.
About 50% of it expires next year. So they put together this wonderful donation, came to us and said, hey, we want to partner in this. And then it came to the point where it's like, hey, the donation we'd like to make will completely replace this over 2 years, which is a huge impact for the fire district and the taxpayers, because as we know, being a tax-funded organization, we only have so many dollars, and we make those stretch. So when we have our gear come up, it becomes a very creative funding scenario where sometimes we privately fund it through a loan or through a vendor, and then we try to pay it off over 4 to 6 years. So with Alderbrook Resort, giving us this wonderful, very generous gift. It absolutely springboards us, freeing up those monies, and then we don't have to go into a contracted situation where we're paying interest.
Sure.
So it's a huge win for us and the citizens of Union.
Can I speak to that,
go
actually,
ahead.
Jeff? Sorry, we identified the gear as the most logical way to contribute towards something, and in a lot of ways it makes sense to us because we rely on Fire District 6 keeping us safe.
Yeah.
And we're not going to be, our team are going to, if they're in a tough situation, we're not going to be able to physically go out there and help them. We're not trained. But through prevention and response, the Fire District 6 has been just incredible, and we feel the sense of safety. And so it's kind of symbolic in a way of money going towards safety gear for the team, the volunteers, and the full-time employees. It's kind of cool for our part. We feel like we're contributing to their safety like they contribute to our safety, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. And we were talking off the air beforehand a little bit about the temperatures that these can withstand and things like that. And I think, too, it's maybe eye-opening for folks to realize that you guys do have to pay for this stuff. It doesn't come as part of, well, it's a new year, here's your new gear for the year. You guys have to pay for this and more.
Out on the free market, so we take our tax dollars that have already been taxed, they're tax dollars, and then anything we buy, we pay tax on. So we have to be very organized, strategic with our purchases, especially when we see these very large item numbers coming in our future.
Mm-hmm.
Right now, for the gear that we've identified, we're looking about $3,000 a set, a firefighter, to make sure they can go out in gear that's legal by state law, and then that's durable, that they can provide that service with. So it's a significant cost, especially with the fire districts that don't have the ability to collect a great deal of revenue.
Mm-hmm.
There's times where they just don't have that opportunity. We find ourselves in an ability, if we're very prudent and that we are strategic, that we seem to do okay. I have never had in my 22 years in the fire service a partnership like I've had with the Alderbrook, where they are constantly talking about, hey, what can we do to help? And normally I'm like, hey, I don't have a lot to pull out of my bag to say this or that. But when they, through general conversation, identified, hey, this gear thing's a big deal, behind the scenes they started working on it, and then brought it back up and said, hey, we'd like to help. And then ownership, leadership, to go to a fire district and say, we'd like to replace all of your gear over 2 years is wonderful and unprecedented in District 6, especially with the generosity. So without getting too worked up, I really appreciate it. And
Is that, Sean, is that something that the Alderbrook kind of, in the mission statement or the way that you guys interact with the folks in Union on a daily basis? You see them on the streets, they see you on the streets, stuff like that. I mean, is that kind of the Alderbrook's thoughts?
It's definitely our, we give it a lot of effort. It's easy to get stuck in your own little bubble during times like this. Not only is it a peak period for the firefighters across the state and the nation, it's also our peak season.
Sure.
And sometimes we lose sight of what we're really here to do, and the community efforts is top. It's front of mind, and our ownership is constantly talking about ways we can improve that. Just the other day, we were up at the Harmony Hill, the United Way Day of Caring. Yeah. And hooking out communications right side by side with us, and so we try to do that, working close with the Alderbrook, the Golf and Yacht Club. Separate ownership, right? We don't own the golf course. It's the homeowner association does, and we try to partner with them and all the properties and go down the line. And we really try to with businesses and with just community efforts in general. With Hook Canal School is we put a lot of efforts with that relationship there, and so yes, it is definitely one of our top priorities. Being good neighbors to everybody.
Well, that's really really cool, really impressive. Alderbrook has donated that money to Fire District 6. You can find out more information on mcfd6.com for the fire district, and the Alderbrook is Alderbrook Alderbrook.resort.com or just Alderbrook.com?
Alderbrookresort.com, yeah.
It's the website for them as well. Very cool. It's always good to pass along these good news stories for folks. Clint, Sean, good to see you guys.
Thanks,
Appreciate
Jeff.
the time.